At the wedding reception I paid for, my girlfriend decided to hook up with another guy one more time, so I vanished and my revenge stunned everyone. Be me, 29-year-old Marcus. Never thought I'd be posting my life drama anywhere, but here we are, need to get this off my chest. Let me give you some background. I'm a marketing manager for a tech startup, making decent money, not Silicon Valley rich, but comfortable as hell in our East Coast city. Grew up in working class family, put myself through college working nights at a warehouse, busted my ass to get where I am today. Always been the reliable, stable guy. The one friends come to for advice, not drama. Was supposed to marry Victoria last month. She's 26, we'd been together 4 years. Engaged for 1 year. She worked as a marketing coordinator at a fashion company, making decent money but always talking about how she deserved more. Everything seemed perfect on paper. 4-bedroom house in Nice suburb cost us a fortune. I put down most of the down payment. Matching Audis, mine paid off, hers on lease I co-signed. Our families got along great. Seriously thought I knew who she was. What I didn't fully realize was how obsessed Victoria was with appearances and status. She'd constantly compare our lifestyle to her friends with richer husbands, always pushing for bigger vacations, more expensive jewelry, talking about upgrading to million-dollar house once we're married. But I overlooked it because I loved her. Thought she loved me too. About 3 weeks before our expensive wedding, my parents contributed a lot to it. She went on her bachelorette trip to Miami with 6 of her friends. I paid for her first-class ticket as pre-wedding gift. Even though money was getting tight with all wedding expenses, didn't think nothing of it, just normal party stuff. She kept texting me the whole time saying she missed me, sending pics from clubs, all that stuff. Had zero worries. My world literally exploded 4 days after she got back. Her cousin Christina, 23, who was on the trip, showed up at my office during lunch. She looked like complete shit, like she hadn't slept in days. "Marcus, I need to talk to you about what happened in Miami," she said, and I immediately felt this sinking feeling in my gut. She told me that on the second night, Victoria met some dude named Dylan at a high-end club, where they were in the VIP section that I also paid for. According to Christina, Victoria got drunk on expensive bottles of champagne. Started talking about how the guy was clearly loaded, wearing a Rolex, dropping thousands at the club. Mentioned he had an investment firm. Then Victoria announced to all her friends that since this was her last chance at freedom, she deserved one final fling before settling down with boring, safe Marcus. She was going to hook up with him. Her friends tried talking her out of it, but she told them to fuck off. Said, "You're just jealous I have options. Some of us can do better than a marketing manager." The worst part, Christina showed me texts from their group chat the next morning where Victoria was bragging about her night. Explicit details about how it was the best sex of her life. How she did things with him she'd always refused to do with me. How she was getting the good stuff out of her system before settling for a reliable provider. She even joked maybe she should accidentally run into Dylan again. Sometime after the wedding, I was fucking devastated, but I didn't confront her. Not yet, I had a different plan. So after finding out Victoria cheated in Miami, I didn't yell or scream or do anything stupid. I made a plan like the methodical manager I am. First, I took a personal day from work. Went through our finances with a fine-tooth comb. Discovered she'd been racking up secret credit card debt. Almost $30,000 worth of designer clothes and spa treatments that she'd been hiding from me. She'd been telling me she was saving for our honeymoon, but that was clearly bullshit. Next, I withdrew my portion of our joint savings, about $85,000 that was supposed to be for our future. We kept separate accounts for most things, except our wedding fund and house emergency fund. I left her portion untouched. I'm not a thief, unlike some people. Then I moved out while she was at her weekly mani-pedi appointment, only taking what was clearly mine. I left her 3.5-carat engagement ring that cost me 22 grand on the kitchen counter with a note that just said, "Ask Dylan if he wants to buy you one instead." Changed my number, deleted all social media, took 2 weeks emergency leave from work. Told my boss a family emergency came up and he was cool about it. The only person who knew where I was staying was my brother Derek. Didn't say nothing to nobody else. I just vanished. Derek told me she went absolutely crazy trying to find me. She showed up at his place multiple times, crying and screaming. The first time she was all tears and, "I don't know what happened to Marcus." But by the third visit, she was banging on his door at 2 a.m., screaming that I was a fucking coward, demanding he tell her where I was. She even called the police to file a missing person report. But when they found out I'd taken my stuff and left a note, they told her it was a relationship issue, not a police matter. She contacted all our friends and my family, playing the victim and saying I must have had a mental breakdown. The funniest part, she kept trying to access our joint accounts, only to find I'd already withdrawn my half. According to Derek, she went ballistic when she realized she was going to have to pay for the wedding vendors herself. I eventually had my lawyer Connor send her a letter. He's a college buddy who now specializes in divorces, stating the engagement was off due to infidelity. All communication should go through him. I also informed all our wedding vendors about the cancellation, but told them to keep the deposits which I had paid for, about $15,000 down the drain, but worth every penny to be rid of her. 3 weeks passed. I rented a new apartment downtown for $2,800 a month, way more than necessary. But I wanted to treat myself, bought some basic furniture, and was trying to rebuild my life. But then Derek told me something that got me thinking. Apparently, Victoria's life was completely falling apart. She lost her job because she had a breakdown at work, screaming at her boss that she deserved a personal day after her fiancé abandoned her. Her friends abandoned her after Christina exposed the Miami texts to everyone. In a group chat, apparently Victoria had been talking shit about all of them too. Her parents were disgusted with her. They're old school religious folks who raised her better than that. Now rumors were spreading through our friend circle about her wild night that were apparently much worse than what actually happened. Part of me thought she deserved this for betraying me, but another part wondered if my complete ghosting was too harsh. Should I have given her a chance to explain? Would it have made any difference? I don't think I'll ever speak to her again, but sometimes I question if I handled this the right way. Holy shit, this blew up. Thanks for all the support. Never thought my fucked up life would get so much attention. It's been like 3 days since my last post. My inbox is a war zone. I'm trying to read all your comments, but there's thousands. Almost all of you say I did the right thing, which honestly helps me feel less like I'm losing my mind. A lot of you asked what happened after Connor. My lawyer sent the letter, so I'll fill in some gaps. Her first response was to send me about 50 emails, ranging from tearful apologies to batshit crazy accusations that I was overreacting and throwing away our future over one mistake. She claimed it was just physical and didn't mean anything. Classic cheater bullshit. After Connor contacted her again, warning her to stop the harassment, she sent a handwritten letter to my parents' house, where she thought I might be staying. It was 16 fucking pages of excuses, justifications, and blame shifting. She wrote that she was drunk, pressured by her friends, having cold feet and a bunch of other BS. She even had the audacity to write that if Marcus had been more adventurous in bed, I wouldn't have needed to explore elsewhere. The thing is, the text Christina showed me told a completely different story. Victoria wasn't pressured. She was the one who decided to do it and bragged about it. She wasn't blackout drunk. She remembered every detail. The next morning, she wasn't remorseful. She was fucking bragging about it and joking about doing it again. Some of you asked what exactly happened at her job. According to our mutual friend Kevin, she had a complete meltdown during a meeting with important clients. Started crying and screaming about how she'd ruined everything. How men are all the same. Her boss, a woman, BTW, put her on leave. She quit a few days later, rather than face the humiliation of going back. Now she's telling everyone she left because they didn't appreciate her talents and underpaid her. As for her friends, turns out they were more loyal to me than I realized. After Christina exposed the texts, several of them reached out to express their disgust with Victoria's behavior and support for me. Even her maid of honor, Lisa, who's been her best friend since high school, has cut ties with her. Lisa told me Victoria had been talking behind her back for years, criticizing her weight, her boyfriend, her basic career choices. Apparently, I wasn't the only one Victoria was two-faced with. Regarding the rumors, I haven't contributed to any of them. But apparently the story has evolved from she had a one-night stand to she had a threesome with strangers to she slept with multiple guys and filmed it. I'm not correcting these rumors because honestly, I don't want to talk about it with anyone. And fuck her reputation at this point. The hardest part has been dealing with our families. Her parents called mine to apologize. They said they raised her better than this and were ashamed of her behavior. My parents are heartbroken. They really love Victoria and already thought of her as a daughter. My mom keeps asking if there's any chance of reconciliation. I've told her repeatedly that there isn't. I've been seeing a therapist, Dr. Wilson, twice a week. It's $175 per session, but worth every penny. It's helping me process, but I still wake up in the middle of the night with this hollow feeling in my chest. 4 years of my life feel like a freaking lie now. I look at pictures of us together and wonder if she was already planning her last hurrah, even as we picked out freaking wedding cakes together. The worst part, I found a notebook of hers that got mixed in with my stuff when I moved out. In it, she had a list of pros and cons about marrying me. The pros were all about financial security. My family connections, my uncle is a partner at a big law firm. She wanted to network with, and that I was consistent and reliable. The cons included not ambitious enough. Doesn't surprise me, and the kicker could probably do better. But running out of time to find someone else. That's who I almost married. A manipulative, status-obsessed, cheating gold digger who saw me as a safe backup plan, while she got the good stuff out of her system. Thanks for letting me vent. Writing this shit out actually helps. Update, 2 weeks have passed, and holy fuck, things have gotten even more complicated. Buckle up, this gets wild. I finally agreed to meet with Victoria, after she kept sending messages through every possible channel, including having her mom call my mom crying. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown, with the agreement that I'd leave immediately if she started any drama. I barely recognized her. She'd lost weight, had dark circles under her eyes. Her usual perfect hair and makeup were a mess. She was wearing sweatpants. I'd never seen her leave the house in anything less than full makeup and a stylish outfit before. Part of me felt satisfaction seeing her like this, which I'm not proud of. She started by apologizing, crying about how she'd made the biggest mistake of her life, and that she never appreciated what she had until she lost it. Standard cheaters were more script. Then she dropped a bombshell. She claimed she was pregnant. My first reaction was disbelief. We'd always used protection. She said it must have failed. Then she admitted she wasn't 100% sure who the father was, me or Miami Dylan. But she was pretty sure it was mine because of the timing. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut all over again. I told her I'd only acknowledge paternity with a DNA test after the birth. She got angry, accused me of being cold and unfeeling, said that a real man would stand by his woman no matter what. I reminded her that she was the one who cheated, and I had every right to verify paternity. She actually had the nerve to say, "This is supposed to be a happy time. You're ruining it with your trust issues." The conversation deteriorated from there. She blamed me for overreacting and destroying her life. Said if I had just talked to her instead of disappearing, we could have worked things out. Then she started crying about how she couldn't afford the mortgage payments on our house without my income. She had been putting most of her money into her secret shopping addiction, and that her parents weren't helping her because they were taking my side. I asked her point blank if she would have even told me about Miami. If Christina hadn't come forward, she couldn't answer, just stared at her latte. Before I left, she tried one more tactic, putting her hand on mine and saying in a seductive voice that she missed me and knew how to make it up to me. When I pulled my hand away, her entire demeanor changed. She hissed that I was throwing away a family, and that I'd regret this for the rest of my pathetic life. The mask completely slipped, and I saw the real Victoria, cold, manipulative, and cruel. I left feeling even more certain I'd made the right choice. If she's actually pregnant, I'll deal with that when the time comes. But I'm not getting back together with her, regardless. After our meeting, she apparently told people I've been cruel to her. Her sister Nicole called me, saying I should man up and support her during the pregnancy. I explained the situation and mentioned the paternity issue. She backed off, admitting she didn't know the full story. Here's where it gets even more fucked up. I found out through Kevin, our mutual friend, that the Miami guy Dylan was actually someone from her workplace. Not a random stranger like she'd told her friends. They'd been flirting for months before the bachelorette party, and he had specifically flown to Miami, knowing she'd be there. This makes the betrayal even worse in my mind. It wasn't some impulsive mistake. There was planning and intent behind it. Kevin also told me that Dylan is actually married with kids, so she knowingly hooked up with a married man while engaged to me. The levels of betrayal just keep getting deeper. On a more positive note, I started reconnecting with old friends I'd neglected during my relationship. My college buddy Brian and I have been mountain biking on weekends. Something Victoria always complained was too dangerous and a waste of money. I'm throwing myself into work and rebuilding my life. I've decided to sell my half of our house to her if she can afford it, or force a sale if she can't. I don't want anything connecting us anymore. The wedding that never happened would have been this weekend. Instead of watching Victoria walk down the aisle in her $12,000 dress that my mom helped pay for, I booked a hiking trip with Derek to get away from it all. One step at a time, right? Update. 1 month since my last post. And you're not going to believe this shit. The pregnancy was fake. Fucking unbelievable. First off, thanks for all the awards and DMs of support. Never expected this many people would care about my train wreck of a life. So here's what happened. I found out the pregnancy was bullshit when Victoria's former roommate Maya contacted me. Maya and Victoria had a falling out years ago. Should have been a red flag. But they still had mutual friends. Maya overheard Victoria on the phone with one of these friends, bragging about how she had made up the pregnancy to try to get me back and secure her financial future. According to Maya, Victoria literally said, "Marcus is such a sucker for responsibility. I just need to keep the pregnancy story going long enough to get him to reconcile. Then I can fake a miscarriage in a few months." Maya felt I deserved to know the truth. She and I had never been close, but she said she'd always thought. Victoria treated me like an ATM rather than a partner. I was livid. When confronted, Victoria broke down and confessed. She thought a baby would fix things between us. And she was desperate because she couldn't afford the lifestyle she'd grown accustomed to without me. I've never been so disgusted with someone in my life. Who the fuck lies about something like that? I recorded our conversation, one-party consent state, and told her if she ever contacted me again with more lies, I'd send the recording to everyone we know, including her boss at her new job. She hasn't reached out since. With this final betrayal, any lingering doubts I had about ending things have completely vanished. She's shown her true character repeatedly, and it's ugly as hell. The house situation is resolved. She couldn't afford to buy me out. Surprise, surprise. So we're selling it. The market's good right now, and I should walk away. With about $175,000 in equity, all communication is happening through realtors and lawyers. Dr. Wilson says I'm making progress and processing the trauma and betrayal. The anger is still there, but it's no longer consuming me. I've started going to the gym regularly and picked up boxing. Hitting things helps a lot. I pretend the heavy bag has Dylan's face on it. Work has become a refuge. I've thrown myself into new projects and have even been mentioned for a senior manager position that would bump my salary significantly. It's nice to have something positive to focus on. Dating isn't on my radar yet. Several friends have tried to set me up, but I'm not ready. Trust is going to be a major issue for me going forward. I know not everyone is like Victoria, but the fear is still there. I did run into her parents at a restaurant last week. That was awkward as hell. They apologized again for their daughter's behavior and said they were ashamed. I told them they weren't responsible for her actions and that I appreciated their kindness throughout our relationship. Her mom started crying. I felt bad for them. They're decent people who are probably struggling to reconcile the daughter they thought they knew with her actual behavior. Some interesting karma has come into play, though. Turns out, Dylan's wife found out about the Miami affair and subsequent contact through social media and has filed for divorce. According to Kevin, Dylan has been claiming Victoria trapped him and came on too strong, essentially throwing her under the bus to save his marriage. So now, both of the cheaters are alone and miserable. I've been asked if I regret how I handled things, disappearing without a word. Honestly, no, it was self-preservation. If I had confronted her directly, she would have manipulated the situation, made excuses, cried those crocodile tears, and possibly convinced me to give her another chance. I needed a clean break to see things clearly. Sometimes the trash takes itself out, but in this case, I had to be the one to throw it away. No regrets. Major update, I didn't plan on posting again, but several significant things have happened, and writing it out helps me process. Plus, so many of you have messaged asking for updates. First, the house sold for $720,000, well above asking price. The market's crazy right now, so I walked away with about $190,000 after all fees and paying off my portion of the mortgage. I've used that money as a down payment on a smaller place, closer to downtown near the tech district. It's a 2-bedroom loft that cost $450,000 and needs some renovation, but it's mine alone. No memories of Victoria, which feels important. I have also invested about $50,000 in some promising tech stocks and crypto. Second, I found out that Victoria has been having a really rough time. She got a job at a smaller marketing firm, making significantly less than before, around $45,000, and has had to drastically downsize her lifestyle. She's moved into a tiny apartment and had to sell her Audi because she couldn't afford the payments, without me co-signing. According to mutual friends, she's been bad-mouthing me to anyone who will listen. claiming I financially abused her by cutting her off. The truth came out, though. Lisa, her former maid of honor, finally got fed up with the lies and posted screenshots in our friend group chat showing Victoria's secret credit card debt, shopping addiction, and texts where she literally referred to me as her meal ticket while planning to cheat. Lisa also revealed that Victoria had been shopping around for a richer guy for months before Miami, even going on lunch dates with her boss's rich friends. While we were engaged, the level of betrayal just keeps getting deeper. Speaking of Lisa, we've actually gotten closer. Not romantically or anything, but she's been a good friend through all this. She said she regrets not warning me about Victoria's true character sooner. The most unexpected development came last week. Christina, the cousin, who originally told me about the cheating, reached out. We met for drinks, and one thing led to another. We're not dating officially, neither of us is ready for that. But there's definitely something there. It's complicated and probably a bad idea. But for the first time in months, I felt something other than anger or numbness. We're taking it extremely slow and being honest about our reservations. Victoria found out somehow and completely lost her shit. She sent a mutual friend to tell me. I'm proving her right about wanting to hook up with her cousin all along. Apparently that was one of her excuses for cheating, that I had been eyeing Christina. It's complete BS. I never thought of Christina that way until recently. Then Victoria tried one last desperate move. She showed up at Derek's wedding reception last weekend. They had invited her before everything happened and forgot to uninvite her. She wore a white dress. Who the fuck does that? And made a scene crying and begging me to talk to her. When I refused, she screamed that I had ruined her life and that I owed her for all she'd sacrificed for our relationship. Derek's new wife Emma was furious and security escorted Victoria out. Derek and Emma were pissed, but I managed to smooth things over. The rest of the night was great though. There was an undercurrent of awkwardness. Work continues to be my sanctuary. I got that promotion I mentioned, and I'm now managing a team of 5. The increased responsibilities keep my mind occupied, which helps. Plus the salary bump to $165,000 plus stock options is pretty sweet. I've had dinner with Victoria's parents twice. They're struggling with their daughter's choices, and the distance she's put between them. Apparently, she's been asking them for money constantly, and when they suggested she get financial counseling instead, she accused them of abandoning her when she needs them most. They asked if I minded staying in touch, and I said I didn't. They were going to be my in-laws, and I genuinely care about them. Dr. Wilson says my recovery is progressing well, but cautions me about potential trust issues in future relationships. I'm working on not letting one person's betrayal color my view of everyone else. The nightmares have mostly stopped. I no longer wake up in a cold sweat replaying scenarios in my head. The pain has dulled from a sharp stab to a persistent ache. Progress, I guess. I've reconnected with friends I distanced myself from during the relationship. It's been eye-opening to hear their perspectives. Several admitted they had concerns about Victoria, but didn't feel it was their place to say anything. In hindsight, there were red flags I ignored, like how she always joked about trading up for a richer guy, or how she'd get angry when I wanted to spend money on experiences instead of status symbols. So that's where things stand. Life goes on, not the life I had planned, but maybe a better one in the long run, who knows. Final update. It's been a year since my world imploded, and I think this will be my final update. Honestly, the story has taken some unexpected turns, and I want to share how karma and a little strategic planning on my part finally gave me closure. First off, my relationship with Christina didn't work out romantically. After a few months, we realized the foundation of our connection was too rooted in trauma. We've remained friends though, which I value. She's actually dating a decent guy now, and I'm happy for her. The big news is that I've been promoted again at work. I'm now director of engineering, making $210,000 plus considerable stock options. The startup I work for got a massive round of funding, and my equity is worth close to $1.5 million on paper. Not bad for a marketing manager who wasn't ambitious enough. According to Victoria. Speaking of Victoria, this is where the story gets interesting. About 6 months ago, she reached out through a mutual friend, begging to talk. I agreed to meet her in a public place expecting more drama. She looked terrible. The year had not been kind to her. She'd gained weight, her hair was dull, and she had that desperate look in her eyes that I recognized from salespeople about to miss their quota. She started with a rehearsed apology, saying she'd been in therapy and realized her mistakes. Then she got to the real reason for the meeting. She was in serious financial trouble after losing her job and burning through her savings. She had racked up nearly $80,000 in credit card debt, trying to maintain her lifestyle. She was facing bankruptcy and possible eviction. Then came the kicker. She wanted my help, not alone, but for me to invest in her new business idea, a luxury social media consulting firm targeting wealthy clients. She needed $50,000 to get started. She had the nerve to say I owed it to her after abandoning her. I laughed in her face. I told her I wouldn't give her a penny if she was dying in the street. Her mask slipped immediately and she started crying and begging, saying she had nowhere else to turn. Her parents had cut her off financially. After discovering she'd been stealing from her mom's jewelry box, Dylan had blocked her after she tried to extort money from him by threatening to tell his wife more details. I had a moment of satisfaction seeing her reduced to this. But then I had a better idea. I told her I'd think about it and asked for a business plan. She perked up immediately, thinking she'd manipulated me again. Here's where my revenge really kicked in. I knew she'd send me some bullshit plan, so I contacted her new boss anonymously and sent him screenshots of all her social media posts, trash-talking their poverty-level paychecks and basic clients. I also may have mentioned her habit of taking long lunch breaks to interview at other companies. She was fired 2 weeks later. Then I contacted her landlord, found through property records, and mentioned the noise complaints I'd heard about from her unit, and suggested they check for the unauthorized pet she was keeping against lease terms. She was given 30 days notice to vacate. The coup de grace came when I hired a PI to dig up dirt on Dylan. Turns out he had gotten back with his wife. By lying about the extent of his affair with Victoria, the PI found evidence of ongoing contact between them, which I anonymously sent to his wife. Their reconciliation exploded and he blamed Victoria. By the time our second meeting rolled around, Victoria was absolutely desperate. She cried, begged, and finally admitted everything. How she'd only been with me for financial security. How she'd been planning to divorce me after a few years and take half. How she'd never really loved me. She said she'd do anything for my help now. I recorded the entire conversation and played it for her parents when they asked why I wouldn't help their daughter get back on her feet. They were shocked into silence, finally seeing their daughter for who she really was. As for me, I'm in a much better place now, both literally and figuratively. My loft renovation is complete, and it finally feels like home. I've hosted friends for dinner, had family stay over, and created new memories to replace the ones that used to haunt me. I even installed a bar area where I display my growing whiskey collection, something Victoria always complained would make us look like alcoholics. If guests saw it, I've been dating someone new for about 4 months. Sophia, a pharmaceutical rep I met at a work conference. She knows the broad strokes of what happened, and she's been patient with my trust issues. Taking it slow has been key. She's nothing like Victoria, more grounded, more honest, smarter, and not interested in status or appearances. It's refreshing. Sophia actually makes more money than I do, and insists on paying her way for everything. The first time she pulled out her credit card for dinner, I almost fell out of my chair. She laughed and said, "What did you think I was with you for free meals?" That moment of honesty and independence was more attractive than any lingerie Victoria ever wore. Last I heard, Victoria had to move back to her hometown and is living in a studio apartment. While working as a server at a chain restaurant, she's tried to reach out a few times, claiming she's hit rock bottom and learned her lesson. But I've blocked her on everything. Sometimes she'll create new accounts to message me, and they're always the same, starting with how much she's changed, then quickly devolving into how much she needs financial help. Her most recent message was particularly desperate. "I know I hurt you, but I'm sleeping on my cousin's couch and barely making rent. I've applied for food stamps. Is this what you wanted to see me suffer? I hope you're happy knowing you've reduced me to this." I didn't respond, but yeah, I kind of am happy. Not because I enjoy seeing anyone struggle, but because for once in her life, she's facing consequences for her actions without someone else bailing her out. Her parents still check in occasionally. They met Sophia last month and were warm and welcoming, if a bit reserved. They've accepted that their daughter made her choices and are trying to maintain relationships with both of us from a distance. Her dad pulled me aside during that dinner and thanked me for still being in their lives, despite everything. That hit me hard. The question I get most often is whether I regret how I handled things, disappearing without confrontation and then orchestrating her downfall. I've had a year to reflect on this, and my answer remains no. Some people might think my revenge was too harsh, but I see it differently. I didn't create fake stories or spread lies. I simply made sure her true character was exposed to everyone who needed to see it. She destroyed herself with her own actions and words. I just made sure there was nowhere to hide. Do I sometimes feel a twinge of guilt about how methodically I dismantled her life? Maybe. But then I remember how callously she was willing to throw away 4 years together for a fling. How she mocked me behind my back. How she planned to use me for financial stability while cheating on the side. The guilt evaporates pretty quickly after that. My therapist says I've made remarkable progress. The betrayal no longer defines me. It's just something that happened, a chapter in my story, rather than the whole book. Dr. Wilson told me recently that the best revenge is living well. But there's nothing wrong with helping karma along a little bit. I think he secretly enjoyed hearing about Victoria's downfall. To those who followed my journey from the beginning, thank you for the support. Writing these updates has been cathartic. It's allowed me to track my progress, acknowledge my growth, and release some of the anger I was carrying. The comments from others who've been through similar situations helped me feel less alone during the darkest days. Life isn't perfect. I still have moments of doubt, and days when the past catches up to me. I still find myself checking Sophia's phone sometimes, when she's in the shower, then feeling sick with guilt afterward. I still have dreams where I'm standing at the altar, watching Victoria walk down the aisle, knowing what's going to happen, but unable to move. But those moments are becoming rarer. Mostly I'm just grateful for the bullet dodged, for the lessons learned, and for the chance to build something better. When I think about how close I came to legally binding myself to someone who saw me as nothing more than a wallet with a pulse, it sends shivers down my spine. If there's one thing I want people to take from my story, it's this. Trust your gut. Value yourself enough to walk away from betrayal. Pay attention to the small signs. They're usually pointing to bigger problems. And remember that the best revenge isn't serving it cold. It's living well while watching karma do its work. So that's it, my final update. Life goes on, and finally that feels like a good thing.